Have you ever felt like you're doing everything right, yet something deep inside feels missing? Like life has become a routine where your body moves, but your soul stands still. There was once a man named Aaron, a 35-year-old corporate professional living in the heart of the city. Every morning, his alarm rang at exactly 6:30 a.m. He'd roll out of bed, brush his teeth, make the same coffee, and stare blankly at his reflection before dressing up in his usual white shirt and gray tie. Then he'd rush to catch the 7:20 bus to the office, scrolling through emails before he even arrived. Day after day, week after week, his life followed the same script: work, eat, sleep, repeat. To everyone else, Aaron was successful. He had what most people dreamed of: a steady job, a nice apartment, a car, and a decent salary. But inside, he felt hollow. He often caught himself wondering, why doesn't this feel like living? He wasn't depressed or lonely, he just felt empty. It was as if his heart was asleep, his soul disconnected from the man he saw in the mirror. Each night, before closing his eyes, he whispered the same thought: is this really all there is? One Sunday morning, Aaron decided to take a walk in the park, a place he hadn't visited in years. The air was fresh, the morning sun painted the sky in gold, and the world felt slower there. Children were laughing, couples were walking hand in hand, and old men played chess under the shade of trees. For the first time in a long while, Aaron felt a quiet sense of peace. He sat on a bench, just watching life unfold. Then, a few feet away, he noticed an old man sitting cross-legged under a tree. The man was sketching something in a notebook, his expression calm and content. Curiosity got the better of Aaron. He walked over and asked, "Excuse me, sir, what are you drawing?" The old man smiled without looking up. "I'm not drawing something, I'm drawing nothing." Aaron frowned. "Nothing? What do you mean?" The man chuckled softly. "Everyone in this world is trying to make something: money, fame, reputation, a future. But in trying to make something, they forget how to be. True peace doesn't come from what you draw on the page, but from the stillness of the hand that draws it." Aaron stood silent. The old man's words made no logical sense, but somehow they felt right. The old man closed his sketchbook, stood up slowly, and said, "You look tired, young man, not of life, but of pretending to live. When you're ready to truly live, stop running. Sit. Listen." Before Aaron could respond, the old man smiled and walked away. That night, Aaron couldn't sleep. He kept hearing the old man's words echoing in his mind. Stop running. Sit. Listen. For the first time, he noticed how restless he had become. He was always moving, chasing goals, filling silence with noise, filling his calendar with busyness. But what was he really chasing? He looked around his apartment, filled with expensive furniture and gadgets, and realized that none of it brought him peace. Everything was designed for comfort, yet he felt uncomfortable in his own skin. The next morning, he sat at his desk at work, watching his colleagues type, talk, and rush through meetings. They looked just like him, alive on the outside, dead on the inside. He thought, maybe we're all just pretending to live. That evening, Aaron decided to take a detour on his way home. He walked aimlessly until he found himself standing in front of a small bookstore tucked between two tall buildings. It was dimly lit, almost hidden from the street. Something about it drew him in. Inside, it smelled of old paper and dust. Rows of books surrounded him, but one particular title caught his eye: The Art of Being. He picked it up and opened to a random page. The line read, "You don't find your purpose by seeking it. You find it by remembering who you were before the world told you who to be." He bought the book immediately. That night, as he read, something began to shift inside him. For the first time, he realized how deeply he had been conditioned to always do, to always achieve, to always prove his worth. But nowhere had he been taught to simply be. He decided to take a break from his routine, not by quitting his job, but by slowing down. The next Sunday morning, Aaron returned to the park, hoping to see the old man again, but the man wasn't there. Instead, on the same bench, Aaron found a small notebook. On its first page, written in the same handwriting as the old man's sketches, were the words, "When the student is ready, the teacher disappears." Aaron smiled. He opened the notebook. Inside were sketches of trees, faces, birds, simple things drawn with such calmness that they seemed alive. Beneath one sketch of a sunrise were the words, "Life begins when you start noticing." Aaron sat there for hours, just breathing, just being. He realized how beautiful the world truly was when he wasn't busy trying to control it. He heard the rustling of leaves, the laughter of a child, the sound of his own heartbeat. Everything felt real. Everything felt alive. Over the next few weeks, Aaron began changing small things in his life. He stopped checking his phone the moment he woke up. He began eating breakfast mindfully, tasting his food instead of rushing through it. He took long walks without headphones. He started journaling each night, not about tasks or goals, but about what he felt. At first, it felt uncomfortable. Silence was strange. Stillness felt heavy. But soon, something magical happened. He started feeling peace. One morning, as he sipped his coffee near the window, he noticed sunlight reflecting off a glass of water. It was so ordinary, yet so breathtaking. He smiled to himself. For the first time in years, he felt grateful. Grateful just to be alive. He began reconnecting with old passions. He picked up his guitar again, something he hadn't touched in a decade. He joined a local art club where people painted not for money, but for joy. Through these small acts, he rediscovered the child within him, the one who used to dream freely, laugh loudly, and wonder endlessly. Months passed. One evening, after a long day, Aaron visited the park again. The sky was painted with shades of orange and pink. He sat under the same tree and opened the old man's notebook. He read one line he hadn't noticed before, hidden near the end. "When you stop chasing shadows, the light finds you." And that's when it hit him. He finally understood what the old man had been trying to teach him all along. He had been chasing purpose as if it was something outside of him, something to find, to earn, to achieve. But purpose wasn't out there, it was within. His emptiness had been a silent cry from his soul, begging him to return home. And home was never a place. It was a state of awareness, a connection to his inner self. Tears rolled down his cheeks, but they weren't tears of sadness, they were tears of release. He whispered softly, "I get it now." From that day forward, Aaron's life changed, not externally, but internally. He still worked at his job, but now he worked with awareness. He smiled more, listened more, and stressed less. He stopped chasing promotions and started seeking peace. He began volunteering at a community center on weekends, teaching drawing to children from poor neighborhoods. It wasn't part of any plan. It just felt right. One day, a little girl tugged at his sleeve and asked, "Why do you come here every week if you don't get paid?" Aaron smiled and said, "Because some things fill your heart, not your wallet." The girl giggled, but those words stayed with him. That night, he wrote in his journal, "Purpose isn't something you find, it's something you awaken when you stop running from yourself." Aaron still went to the same office, lived in the same apartment, and took the same walks, but now everything was different. He was no longer lost in thought. He was alive in the present. Sometimes, while sitting under the same tree, he could almost hear the old man's voice whispering through the wind. "You finally stopped drawing something. Now you're living the art of nothing." He smiled quietly. The emptiness that once haunted him had transformed into spaciousness, a sacred stillness where peace lived. Sometimes you have to lose yourself in order to find who you truly are. The emptiness you feel is not a curse. It's an invitation to awaken. Life begins not when you add more, but when you let go of what isn't you. If this story touched your heart, pause for a moment, take a deep breath, and remember, your true purpose isn't something distant. It's already within you. Subscribe to this channel for more motivational stories that help you reconnect with your inner peace and awaken your true self. Let's grow together, one awakened soul at a time.